Um, and this will be sent out probably later on today. Attached to that recording, which will come via email, is a quick questionnaire. So for us, our WGU populations, we value our student and alumni opinions. We want your feedback. So we just ask that you take the time, fill out that questionnaire. It should take you no more than 2 minutes to fill that out. But feel free to submit that and then go back and access anything that's covered today. So you'll have access to that recording. Feel free to take that, share it with whoever you might want to send that to. The chat is open, so feel free to post questions into the chat. I know that there will be a designated Q&A, and what I'll do is I'll allow people to take themselves off mute. If you want to come off mute and ask your questions, you can certainly do that. Or if you're more comfortable just posting those into the chat, you can certainly do that. My name is RJ Panesi. I work here at WGU on our career and professional development team. I know I'm excited about this presentation. And from here, what we will do is I will pass it over to the Chicago Public Schools team. Jason, the floor is yours.
Definitely. Thank you, RJ. Thank you for having us. And of course, thank you folks for joining us. So we're super excited to be here as I have a few of my colleagues who are ready to talk to you about finding a job in Chicago Public Schools. But beforehand, I would like to make a simple request. If for you WGU folks who are here in the chat, if you can list your potential, career interests, whether it be in the classroom, outside of the classroom, that'll kind of help us know where we can cater our questions to. And as RJ did mention, we are going to have a Q&A to answer anything you want to know. So as I said, I am Jason Butler Taylor. I'm the talent acquisition manager here with our teacher recruitment team. And I'm also going to throw it to Andrea Romo, who is one of our recruitment specialists, who's actually going to be the full facilitator of this. And of course, she'll introduce the rest. So Andrea, the show is yours. But once again, thank you all. And here's Andrea.
Thank you, Jason. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Romo, and I am a recruitment specialist here within CPS. Today, I want to get started and get into the thick of it, so finding a job in CPS. But first, of course, I would like to introduce my team. Jason, could you go to this next slide, please? So here we are. So we have Danny Kim. He is the Director of Talent Acquisition. We have Jason Butler Taylor, who you all just met, is our manager. We have Hope Green, Katya Burnham, and Jessica Butler, who are also recruitment specialists like myself. And then we have Anna Torres, who is our amazing recruitment coordinator. Next slide, please. So finding a job in CPS. So the first step is to have a very strong teaching resume if you are interested in being a teacher, for example. However, strong resume is always recommended, right? So this is super important because a resume is going to be the first thing that a principal has in front of their hands and is going to be the next, it's going to be what determines the next step. So of course, here within the CPS Talent Office, we host different events, including resume workshops and career fairs. And our resume workshops are meant to provide you that support, answer any questions, and make sure that you have a stellar resume before you begin applying to schools and before that is presented in front of a principal. And then, of course, our career fairs. This is a great opportunity to connect with school leaders, with principals, make friendships with other people who, like yourself, are going to be new to the school district, and a great opportunity to ask questions that are important to you both personally and professionally. And then, of course, we always recommend to not wait to take your content test before your student teaching has completed. If you haven't done that already, this is really important because if life happens or some delays occur, we don't want you to miss out on any potential opportunities. And then, of course, our data shows that the sweet spot to apply to roles is between 11 to 20 CPS schools. However, the more the merrier. And then, of course, make sure that you're connecting with the recruiter here within the CPS Talent Office. We are here to support you. We want to make sure that we take some of that load off and that stress off your shoulders and make this process as smooth as possible and set you up for success. And then again, the last thing is to be responsive to emails, not only from us, from the CPS Talent Office, but also from our principals. We want to make sure that you're staying up to date and that everything can go smoothly. Next slide, please. So where are the jobs? So there are plenty of opportunities here within as Chicago Public Schools all across the city. So if you take a look at the map, we have how do vacancy rates differ across the city. So the lighter shades of gray are going to dictate our lower vacancy rates. And then if you look at the darker shades of gray, that tells you a little bit more about the higher need areas here within the city, which do tend to be within the west, southwest, outside of the city. However, there are really amazing schools all over the city, regardless of what community they may reside in. And I always encourage all of my candidates to keep an open mind, open heart, because there can be a really great school that maybe they originally hadn't thought about who ends up being a really great fit. Next slide, please. So now I want to hand it over to our awesome Opportunity Schools team.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Jordan Listenby. I am a recruiter with our Opportunity Schools team here within CPS. Opportunity Schools is really focused on educational equity, and especially within the hiring practices of CPS. So, as you saw in this slide before, there are a lot of opportunities primarily on our south and west sides, and we really want to make sure that candidates are being exposed to those school environments so that they can get hired there, because all of our students, no matter where they live within the city of Chicago, should have a quality educator within their classrooms, and we're really working to connect and make sure that our candidates understand those schools and are able to connect with those schools. And just see what it's like. We spend a lot of time in schools with our admin at those schools. We go and watch the instruction during the day, and are sitting in the teachers' lounge just to see what the staff culture is like, so that when you come to us as candidates, we're able to match you best with schools that are going to fit what you're looking for in a school environment. So my team, we're comprised of 3 people. We have Ellen, who is our Opportunity Schools recruitment manager, myself. I recruit for the South and our far South elementary and middle schools, and then my colleague James, who works in recruitment for the West Side and Southwest Side elementary and middle. Ellen does our high schools. So if you're interested in teaching in CPS and want to consider Opportunity Schools because you're focused on equity and educational equity, definitely touch base with us. We can get you more information about our contact here when we're done. Awesome. Let me just have a short video for you to watch about our initiative.
Okay, I'm aware that you all did not hear that at all. It was loud in my ear. Let's do this. We'll forego it for now. I want to get back to what you all are going. You can hear me, correct?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Andrea. I'm sorry, I lost it for a brief second here.
Andre, I think you're muted.
Thank you. I'm
Yep.
so sorry about that. So what is the early offer program? So the early offer program is a guaranteed teaching offer here within CPS in a high need content area. So if you're interested in teaching within a high need endorsement, which include special education, math, science, bilingual, art, physical education, this is a great program for you. However, if you will be endorsed in a different content area, please do not let that discourage you. We are always looking for teachers who are passionate about education equity and able to teach within all areas of the city of Chicago. You would also be considered for this program, and please make sure to email teacherrecruitment@cps.edu and to be connected with one of our designated recruiters and be able to support you along that process. So we have another video after this slide talking a little bit more about the early offer program. However, Jason, will we be able to hear it?
So I'm going to try with this video. I'll try with the video to make sure you can hear the sound, but let me know. Are you hearing the sound?
No.
Are you hearing the sound? Okay, so maybe let's just go ahead because I can't get the sound going.
Alrighty, so what are some of the benefits of the early offer program? Why would I want to join the early offer program? So if you would like to feel like the Beyonce of the educational world here within CPS, this is a great program for you because we really try to bring you that personalized support. We make sure that you are prepared once you are going to be interviewing with the principal, of course, give you that resume coaching as well, and of course, give you knowledge of open positions and information about our schools. Last year, we hired 500 teachers in our school district, so really great overall process. And again, it's never too early to interview for the early offer program. And please get in touch with us. Like I had mentioned earlier, we are here to support you, and we want to make sure that we set you up for success and take off some of that stress and load that can come with finding a job and going into that next chapter of your career. Next slide, please. So now the timeline, recruiting timeline and next steps. So let's say that you will be graduating in spring. So in May of 2024, between now and March, it is the perfect time to prepare. So if you haven't already networked with us or found out more information, and then of course interview for the early offer program, right now is the perfect time for that. However, between the months of March and July, if you haven't already interviewed with us, we would still consider you. And of course, that is when we begin having our events, our recruiting events, and make sure that your resume is finalized so that we can begin circulating it with our schools and our school leaders and highlight your candidacy. And then, of course, applying for a licensure, because we want to make sure that that step is done with so that it doesn't prevent you from being able to be in the classroom on the first day of school. And then between April and August, if you haven't already, continuing to apply to schools and interviewing with schools and accepting a really great potential offer. And then, of course, completing all onboarding tasks, which we would be supporting you with, again, to smooth out the process and make sure that you are ready to be in school on that first day. So now I want to pass it over to the mental health team.
Hi there. Thanks, Andrea, so much. My name is Corey Simons. I'm the manager of talent acquisition with the school-based mental health team. My team is comprised of George Nye and Joel Gopperthingle, as well as Sandra Martinez, who are recruitment specialists and recruitment coordinators, respectively. Excited to be here. While we do not have, we're not down the same track as someone that would want to be an educator. The school-based mental health grant does focus on all things social work, all things counseling, and all things psychology related. And so our efforts are to recruit and increase a pool of credentialed school mental health service providers, primarily comprised of school, as I had mentioned, social workers, counselors, and psychologists. And the resources to retain our current talented cadre of providers as well is part of what our grant does. So our grant is to focus on all things recruitment and then retention. And that CPS has also we have several goals and strategies around recruitment, hiring and retention, and positive employment engagement. And so should you know of someone or if you are interested in a school-based mental health role, if you can go to the next slide, please. And that's not my slide, but further below, you'll find my contact information, and we'll be more than happy to walk you through what a day in the life of a school-based mental health program would look like, and becoming either a psychologist, counselor, or social worker. Thank you.
So now we want to go ahead and open up the floor. I know that was a lot of information, but if anyone has any questions that they may have for us, please feel free to unmute yourself or to type it in the chat. We would be happy to answer.
As people are doing that, I did have a quick question. First one that I had was outside of just education and mental health positions, do you have any other positions that might be available? I'm thinking even for our College of Business students or College of IT, anything that you could touch on there? And then where might somebody find these opportunities? Is there a direct link that they can go to check these out?
Of course, good question. So yes, the great thing about CPS is most for Chicago Public Schools, most people only really think about the in-classroom work, but there are opportunities for pretty much anyone. Now, as far as those roles, if they are a business candidate, we have roles such as substitute teachers. Obviously, we'll start there. We have clerk positions, classroom assistants, and just a variety of things on our actual Taleo website. So we have over 519 schools, and each school has their own different needs. So specifically, you will see support staff that is needed, whether it be in traditional schools like ours or the opportunity schools, or even potentially assistants, whether it be office assistant like we mentioned with Anna and Sandra, all the way down to working in our lunchrooms. Now, the website to do that, and if someone can drop it in the chat, you can visit our page at cps.edu/careers. And great thing about the website is you can search based on location. So if you know you're interested in positions maybe on the south side of the city, you can do it that way. North side, if you want something more administrative in classroom, it's a lot of functionality on there. And then on top of that, we do have a community outreach sort of team that is a part of the teacher recruitment that goes out to our various community events as well as host community events for those who are not really sure yet what they want to do, but know they want to be a part of Chicago Public Schools as a whole. So we'll put that information in the chat if it already isn't there because I can't see it myself.
Thank you. And just a reminder for everyone, you can either post questions in the chat or you can actually take yourself off mute and ask the CPS team any questions that you might have, either or whatever you are most comfortable with. And as people are thinking of those, I do have another question, and I get this a bunch from our School of Education populations. Can you maybe touch on the mentorship piece for young educators? We have a lot of students that might be new to the field. They might be career changers, and they're stepping into the classroom for the first time. Can you just share what type of mentorship opportunities there are maybe for young educators to connect with somebody that might have already been working in the school district for some time?
Sure, I'll touch on that, and then I'm also going to throw it to someone. She probably already knows who. She smiled briefly, but we actually have an entire team or department devoted to that. That is called New Teacher Supports. And essentially, this is a team that works with the three teams you see here, that as you are being onboarded into Chicago Public Schools and getting ready for the first day of school, they're going to reach out to you about becoming a first year teacher. They're going to help connect you with other first year teachers as well as other resources that teachers are in need of. Obviously, teachers go through student teaching or may have experience elsewhere, but coming into a district this size and this magnitude, it can be a lot and it can be overwhelming. And so this department is solely geared to assisting brand new teachers to the district. Now, I said I was going to throw it to someone, one of our colleagues here, Jessica Butler, I'm going to put her on the spot, is actually a former in-class CPS teacher, and maybe she could speak more to her experience about that because, yeah, why not? So, Jessica, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, of course. So, being such a large district, there's a lot of levels to mentorship. So, thinking about just your school level, you're going to get PDs about how to use Skyline, how to use your basic curriculums. You might have a mentor that's within your building. Above that, there's also the network level. So, you might get a mentor who's from a different nearby school. You'll be able to kind of shadow them. They can come and kind of critique you and see what you're doing and how they can support you. And then departments also have their own types of mentorship. So like I specialize in the arts most of the time. They have their own PDs, one-on-one coaching sessions, social interactions that they set up. And I'm pretty sure other departments have similar pathways, but there's just a lot of different ways that you can get in touch with people and get the support that you need.
Let's add on to that as well. That is um, a benefit of opportunity schools as well. Each of our schools does have a mentor teacher that is assigned to the school and has been with the school for a while. So just somebody that really knows the community, has time built into their schedule to provide that mentorship. So whether you need observations done of your classroom and just providing feedback, whether you have questions about systems within the school and you don't feel like going, to your admin to ask questions, it's just somebody that's kind of on your level that's there to provide the information for you and just be a personal and professional support throughout your time in our schools. So.
Thank you all for sharing that. It's something that I think is crucial, especially for young educators, to have somebody or a team of people that they can connect with, bounce ideas off of, share, hey, here's a situation that I was in. How would you have handled it, or how should I handle it? I think that's crucial to allow people to stay in the profession and be able to succeed moving forward. So I very much appreciate that you all have an entire team geared towards that and a program geared towards that. I think it's so important. Anybody in that's joined us have any questions for the CPS team?
I wanted to add too, I know you had a previous question for people outside of the education majors. We are the fourth largest district in the nation. Take a lot of people to run this ship and make sure that we're successful. We have an entire central office team that works with IT, works with the business side of education, works with curriculum development. So I know Jason talked about the individual schools, but there's also our downtown office and all the networks within the district also that will have opportunities for you if you haven't really considered education. There are opportunities if you're in the business world or if you're in computer science or anything like that. Data that is huge. So if the math or any data science, definitely opportunities. Even talent office, if you're looking to recruit talent, we always have positions in our office as well. So
Thank you for sharing that.
And to add a little bit about what Jordan just mentioned, all of these vacancies and postings will be on the same website, and you may find the link in the chat, cps.edu/careers, and also the one I sent above that one.
And I'll attach those to the communication that goes out after this with the recording, so that people that, maybe weren't able to join us this afternoon, they'll also get those links. And then anything else that you all need sent out, we can certainly attach that as well. And there was a question that came into the chat.
Hi, Yvette. So yes, if you are interested in teaching math here with NCPS, please make sure to reach out to one of us. So actually our designated math recruiter, her name is Katya Burnham, and her email is right there in the screen. It is kaburnham@cps.edu. She will be able to guide you through the process, really support you, and answer any questions that you may have.
I had another question, if that's okay. We get a lot. I hear a lot from individuals where they're trying to gain insight as far as how can they stand out from other applicants. So, is there anything in particular that individuals have done in the past where that have really jumped out to you all? Maybe it's on their resume. Maybe it's during the interview process. Maybe they were able to network with you ahead of time and make that connection. Any insight on some, let's say, some tips and tricks that have really stood out to you all?
Here, actually, I think that's a really good question. Corey, you want to take it from the mental health side because I know it's going to look different on yours. Andrea, you can take it from us, and then Jordan or James.
Yeah.
Care to do that?
Thank you so much, Jason. For me, I always like, from a resume standpoint, to better understand exactly what a person's looking for from the onset of their submission. And so being overt about the position that they're applying for, I'm a big fan of summarizing that up front on the top of the resume. And then any relevant experience. One of the things that I always look for is if you are graduating, or for that matter, have graduated, what are you currently doing to better yourself so while you're finding your ultimate vocation or career? Secondly, I always encourage people to follow up with me on LinkedIn. And I definitely like it when someone goes the extra mile to link in with me and ask me any relevant questions as to how they can stand out further in the process. And so those are two avenues. Additionally, my contact information is listed all around the career page and the clinicians page. And so anyone that contacts me to go with kind of that extra mile shows me that they're really interested in the role, and I will get back to them as soon as possible. 9 times out of 10, because it's right in front of me and it's easier for me to access, you want yourself to be accessible. And that's what's great for me. Also, too, I know this might sound very minor, but having an email address that is professional, not, I am groovy at yahoo.com or something of that nature, but something that demonstrates your full name in some capacity, because it is easier to remember. And when it populates in my system, I can see it immediately rather than not have to guess. So I know that might seem minor, but that's my own personal preference. Outside of that, LinkedIn, of course, is one of the best ways for follow-up. That would be about it for me. Andrea?
Thank you, Corey. So actually, I want to vote Jess to answer this question because as a previous teacher, she has really great tips.
Thank you, Andrea. I actually feel like there's some very simple things that can really help your resume stand out to principals, especially because if you think about principals, they're in crunch time all the time. So making sure, you have clear communication, phone number, email near the top, and then your IEIN number. So once you do get your education number, identificator number from ISB, making sure that's near the top, just so principal can look at it, be like, okay, this person is certified. I know when they're going to be certified, and then they can go about reading the rest of your resume and all of your great accomplishments. And then something that I've also seen, which usually is in the arts, but I've seen it in some other places. A lot of people like to share visuals of, rubrics that they've used, lessons that they've used. They usually have it on a separate website or a separate portfolio, but they just leave a little QR code near the top. So it's kind of like at our leisure, we could look at it and kind of delve into who you are in your teacher persona, kind of what you've done in classroom and what that looks like with actual students.
Yeah, I think that's huge, right? Because a lot of times when people write their resumes, especially for teachers, they're writing down the responsibilities that they have as teachers, which all teachers have those responsibilities. So you really want to make yourself stand out by your accomplishments in the classroom. So I think having, links to your work is great. If I know, especially for a lot of you finishing up your programs, you're just trying to learn the basic skills and you might not, have all these experiences, but you've probably made more of an impact in your student teaching classes than you think you have. If you've worked with a particular student and they've bumped up some reading levels, or you've seen their test scores improve, make sure that you're adding those statistics and that data onto your resume to show that you've been effective as an educator. So that's just a practice that you should have throughout your time. Just show how you continue to grow. And the biggest thing on my end would just be making sure that you're communicative. Like, make sure you reach out to us, because again, we have those relationships built with admin already. They take our word on candidates that we bring in, and they, you might apply to 20, 30 positions and might not get a call back, but when you talk to us and build that relationship with us and we can send out your resume, then they're like, okay, hey, we trust this person, we talk to them often, like, let's give this person a chance because Jordan told us about them. And make sure that you stay communicative with principals too. They will reach out to do interviews. Don't skip those emails, don't skip those calls, because this is not a good look on your end. So if they reach out, make sure you reach back to them. Even if you get a job and you take another job, just keep building those relationships, because the world of education is pretty small, and so you never know when you all might run into each other again at some point in time. So just remember, you're building bridges, keep that line of communication open, and know that all of our recruiters here want to see you in positions within CPS. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
If I can piggyback on one thing Jordan said, I think this is even just as important as all of these things. Answer the phone for numbers you do not know as you are looking for a job.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know the number for your employer or a future employer. So I have had people where I would call them directly from my office number. I'll leave a voicemail, and then a week later they say, yeah, I never heard from you. And I go, well, I called you. And they go, oh, I didn't know that was your number. So do not be afraid to pick up the phone and reply or respond to voicemails. All of us are super busy, so it might be a call at 10 in the morning that we were thinking about you, we wanted to talk to you, but you didn't get back to us till a week later. You might have missed an opportunity. So please be vigilant in that while looking for a role.
And if I can add just one more thing, do not be afraid of your teacher buzzwords. I know sometimes they can feel cliche, but if you are trained in Montessori, if you are trained in IB, if you've done anything with social emotional learning, attended PDs, put that on there, because that's going to show to a principal, you did the work, you've done the training, and you kind of understand those processes. So don't be afraid to throw those on there.
There was a question that came through the chat from Addison. Is volunteering in a classroom a valuable experience to include on your resume?
I would say anything that's school related, anything where you're working with youth, and like an instructional role, or anything where you're working within the community or school environment. Yeah, add that on for sure. I mean, definitely make sure that you have your student teaching first. Any direct classroom experience you definitely want to have on there, but anything kind of related to that, yeah.
Awesome. Any final questions for the CPS team? Oh, one did come in. Addison again. I'm just starting my degree and I'm not totally sure if teaching is the path I want to take. Are there any recommendations about how I can determine if this is the right path for me?
Ask questions. Going back to something Corey said, we all have access to LinkedIn. We all are on LinkedIn. We have career fairs, job fairs, and there are a lot of just people who are willing to talk to you. And that's something I learned very early in my career is when I was 19, 20 years old, I was afraid to ask questions. And when I started to open up, I realized that folks like me today, or Corey, or Jessica, Jordan, James, or Andrea would answer the question and tell you the truth. So if you're not sure, have a conversation. I'm not going to sign Jessica up, but her email is on the screen. Maybe she is someone to talk to. Maybe it's a teacher from your high school, or maybe it's a teacher in WGU as you're considering education to speak with. Maybe RJ could help, but he might know a couple people. So I would say don't be afraid to just ask questions.
Ask questions and see if you can do a shadowing too. I know a lot of companies, no matter what sector you're in, whether it's education or and I know education is a little bit different because you gotta have certain clearances to get into schools and stuff. They don't just want anybody around kids, but just maybe ask a principal, ask a nearby school, or ask somebody in your education department if it'd be possible for you to sit in on a class and just see how things go at a school. And again, there's schools have a lot of different climates and environments, so go to a couple schools and just kind of see, if it's something that you're like, okay, yeah, I can see myself being here.
And just to piggyback off of that, because when I started college, I was actually in advertising and marketing. And just doing those observation hours and getting in front of kids and seeing if this is something you can do or even want to do for the next 5 to 10 years of your life is invaluable. Those couple hours you put in with the kids, or even after school programs, where that may look different than a 6-hour day with a group of first graders, just seeing how it feels to lead children and kind of like usher them through lessons and learning and exploration is really helpful.
Saying something to, cross thinking about it, you talked about marketing. So we have a great program within Chicago Public Schools called Tutor Corps. And this is geared for folks who are not yet licensed teachers, college students, or in other careers. It's an opportunity to come work directly with students and tutoring them in specific subject areas across the city. So I'll get the information and drop it in the chat. But if you are in the Chicagoland area, it is something to consider. Because it is paid and it gives you really that one-on-one experience working with a kid who needs help. Who knows, it might spark something else. Thank you, Andrea, really fast with that. But that is an option here. And I guess that's part of the bigger thing about a place like Chicago Public Schools. Our district is so large, and as I mentioned earlier, people think of it only as just teaching, but there are so many avenues to go through. And even after you may have left the classroom, someone like a Jessica, there are other things you can do to still support the district, the students, and even the teachers, which is part of why we're here for those kind of reasons. Not all of you are teachers, we understand, but there is an opportunity for you within this district to support.
One question did come in through the chat. Bill asked, as a student teacher, I developed a field trip planning checklist for the school. Is that resume worthy?
If I can hop in on this one, I definitely feel like that's a good thing to put on your resume, just because if I'm a principal reading that, I'm seeing that you're a self-starter, you're making checklists. Like maybe that's something in my school that you could become an expert at, that you can lead other teachers in PD and like kind of create these processes for how we go on field trips and what we should be checking. So I think that's a wonderful thing to also maybe put on your teacher website. Like here is the rubric and the checklist that we should be following. This is something I'd like to bring to your school. I would definitely say yeah.
Another one came in the chat. Jim asked, considering the balance between being open to flexibility and having boundaries, what is some good language to use around being self-protective of personal time? What are some honest expectations for outside classroom time requirements for teaching employees?
I kind of feel like any of us can jump in, but I'd love to hear Jessica first, and then I'll say it from my behind the scenes. Jessica, what do you think about that?
I feel like that is a wonderful and very school-based question. It definitely depends on your community. What are the expectations for running after-school programs? At the end of the day, not to get into CTU and teacher union, but you are only required to do your contractual hours, but you might want to make a couple dollars after school, or maybe provide a service for your kids, to help them move up the ranks in like their IAR reading scores, or maybe you want to run an art program. So usually you do get a choice for that, and it is, up to you what you'd like to do. But I think also just being honest with, like maybe you have an hour drive to school, letting your admin know that, like, hey, you might not want to be able to stay every week, every day. So just being honest about like commutes and your own time commitments with yourself, your team, and your admin, I feel like.
So I was going along those lines too. And what I wanted to highlight to that question was this is why Jessica, Andrea, Jordan, and James kind of exist. So as a large school district, everyone thinks just apply to a job. It's a school, is a school, is a school. And that's actually not true. Our recruitment specialists are here to get to know who you are. And those questions are going to go into things like, where do you live? Because we don't necessarily want you driving an hour and a half, especially as it gets snowy, to try to get to school. We want to make sure you are in a community that you feel a part of. And so when I was recruiting, something I would always try to take note in is what are some of your other interests? Meaning, while you are an educator first, that is the thing you do. If you had a sports background, maybe let's try to find a school for you that has a strong athletic program, something that you would be excited to be a part of and it not necessarily feel like a chore. And of course, as Jessica mentioned, you can earn potential additional, funds from doing that. But if it's something you just naturally like to do, is it really about the money? Sure, it's going to be great. And then, of course, stepping into a role as a teacher, you really have to care about the work. This isn't just something you just wake up and decide, hey, I'm going to go do this. You have to actually love it. And so that's going to be another thing, piggybacking once off Jessica, what she said is thinking about the community that you're going in. And I know the OS guys do a really a deep dive into you and your interest in making sure the school is a right fit for you, because we want you to be at a place and stay there the next 20 years. We don't want you in a place where you're having to come talk to us in 6 months again looking for a role. And I'm pretty sure Corey's team is very similar to that. We want counselors or nurses or whoever to go into a place and be there and really be a part of the community and help grow that community or that school community and support the adjacent community as needed. RJ, you still here? Any other questions? Anything else anyone wants to know?
Any other questions? We'll give people a minute to think about that. But I did want to just say thank you to the CPS team. We so appreciate you all, jumping in, sharing some insight, answering questions for our populations. We certainly see a ton of value with having you all come in and kind of share, you all being the hiring and recruiters here for CPS. So that's something we certainly find valuable. For those that are going back and watching the recording, just a reminder, I will include the links from the session from the chat box into the communications out. Reminder to everybody on the call, this session was recorded, so that certainly will be sent out sometime today. And then attached to that is the questionnaire. I don't see any other questions that came through, so I do again want want to just say thank you, CPS team, for jumping in, sharing some great insight, and hopefully able to connect with some great candidates here, and hopefully those that on the call got some great information that they can take back and apply and really think about moving forward. So from here, what I will do.
Actually, RJ, here, before you go, I feel bad because
absolutely.
because they don't have a slide. Jordan and James, can you give your emails out verbally so that people can have it? I know it's in the chat, but yeah, we don't have a slide for you here, unfortunately. So go ahead, fellas.
My email is jm, as in Michael, Listenbee, LISTENBEE at cps.edu. And I'll put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, mine is jmelendez30 at cps.edu. So it's JMELENDEZ30 at cps.edu. We put it in the chat for you guys.
I'll attach that to the communication that gets sent out as well, so people have that. They're not missing anything. Awesome. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate it. And at CPS, any last comments, closing remarks that you all want to make?
Yes.
No.
Thank
Good.
you guys for your time, and yeah, we'll look forward to hearing from you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the afternoon. Keep an eye out for that email. Stay warm out there for those in the northern part of the country, especially Chicago. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.